convenience, archaeologists recognize 5 periods in Peruvian archaeology. The dates of these 5 periods are not known exactly because the indigenous people of Peru left no written record. Omitting the nomadic tribes, about which we have little information, the Chavin period is the oldest so far identified in Peru. The period gets its name from the site of Chavin de Huantar in the North Highland area of Peru. Archaeologists believe that the platform-type ruins indicate an early religious center, but that no village was located here. The characteristic masonry of the walls identifies the Castillo in Chavin. Stone sculpturing is typical. In the second, or so-called early period, the Mochica and Nazca cultures have been studied intensively by archaeologists. Mochica pottery is basically realistic, pictorial. It demonstrates freedom of artistic expression in design. Portrait jars apparently represented the people as they actually looked in that ancient time. They looked so natural, one might think that they could speak.
Well, maybe I can't talk, but I can show you something. We fished from little reed boats, hunted birds with blowguns. Our ceramics documented our life and times. I guess you can see why we called our ceramics picture book pottery.
The whistling jar illustrates the ingenuity of the ancient people. When the jar is partially filled with water and tipped, you can hear the reaction of the patient as the surgeon operates on her back. Nazca pottery, while employing as many colors as the Mochica, shows less freedom of design. Design is stereotyped and is repeated again and again. Much Nazca pottery, as well as Mochica pottery, was made by hand, as it is still being made by hand in many parts of Peru today. Archaeologists are thankful for the great Peruvian desert, which stretches more than 1,000 miles along the Pacific Ocean. Beneath drifting sands, mummies, Paracas textiles, and other artifacts are found in excellent condition. Their colors are as brilliant as though they'd been buried only months instead of 1,000 years. Thus, coastal cultures are well represented by artifacts. However, archaeologists are not so fortunate in the highlands, where only such things as gold, silver, stones, and pottery withstand the disintegrating influences of weather and time. The middle period is bracketed by the widespread Tiahuanaco culture, which takes its name from the site near Lake Titicaca and just over the border in Bolivia. The Gateway of the Sun is the best-known symbol of the culture. Also in the middle period, the Inca culture erected pyramids along the coast of Peru. Now in ruins and partially buried by desert sands, Chan Chan was the most famous city of the Chimu culture. The Chimu culture falls within the late period, when populations were sufficient to produce cities. Built of adobe, Chan Chan sculptured mud walls have suffered because of the occasional rains along the north coast. The Chimu culture discloses a simple type of gold work. In the coastal desert, feather work is found in an excellent state of preservation. Following the middle and late periods is the Inca horizon, last of the 5 major periods. The Inca arrived in the highlands about 1200 A.D. For 2 centuries, the sun worshippers occupied only the limited territory about their capital, Cuzco, far south of the equator. Then, in less than 100 years more, the Inca Empire was greatly expanded and consolidated before the coming of the Spaniards in 1532. In a total of about 300 years, the Inca civilization flowered and faded, leaving for archaeologists a magnificent heritage. In Cuzco, at an elevation of 11,000 feet, the Incas left some of their finest masonry. In the circular wall of the Temple of the Sun, built without mortar, even a razor blade cannot be inserted. On such sturdy Inca foundations, the Spaniards built their churches and their homes and civic buildings. No doubt, the Inca frequently visited the amazing fortress of Sacsayhuaman, which overlooks Cuzco. Without tools of iron or steel, and with no knowledge of the wheel or pulley, Inca craftsmen quarried, moved, and placed in position perfectly fitting stones weighing many tons. Inca agricultural engineers scaled the Andes with staircase farms, leaving projecting stones for easy ascent of the mountainside terraces. Machu Picchu, one of the most spectacular Inca ruins, was discovered in 1911 by Dr. Hiram Bingham. Of his return to clear the ruins, Dr. Bingham says,
"In 1912, thanks to the support of the National Geographic Society and of Yale University, we were able to go back and spend 4 months in clearing the ruins of the mighty jungle that had accumulated there over 300 years.
In his book about Machu Picchu, Dr. Bingham makes it clear that even the Spaniards never knew of the existence of this mountain retreat, the lost city of the Incas. Numerous fine stone stairways connect the different levels of the city, which would otherwise be most difficult of access. One of the finest structures at Machu Picchu is the Torreon, the semicircular tower whose curving wall reminds one of the Inca Temple of the Sun in Cuzco. An aerial view makes it easy to see how Machu Picchu could have been hidden for centuries, and explains why archaeologists look to the future in Peru. For there may be other important ruins still unrevealed, other lost cities challenging archaeologists to discover them. Type ruins indicate an early religious center, but that no village was located here. The characteristic masonry of the walls identifies the Chavin period, is the oldest so far identified in Peru. The period gets its name from the site of Chavín de Huantar in the North Highland area of Peru. Archaeologists believe that the platform For convenience, archaeologists recognize 5 periods in Peruvian archaeology. The dates of these 5 periods are not known exactly because the indigenous people of Peru left no written record. Omitting the nomadic tribes, about which we have little information,